Good evening from Muncie. I have been remiss in that it's been many weeks, over 3 months, since I last did a daily Davening Discourse. And daily doesn't apply to language one hasn't done 3 months. But hopefully, and I can't promise, because last time I think I really guaranteed this, and obviously it didn't come to pass, but I hope that we'll be able to continue on a regular basis from this point on. So we left off in the middle of the bracha Shma Kolenu. This is Shma Kolenu part 3, and we're up to the Kikel Shemet Philos Sachanunim Matzah. So Kosh Baruch Hu listens to Philos and Tachanunim. So the difference between a tefillah and a tachnun is generally understood that the tefillah is the words of the prayer themselves, and the tachnun is a supplication, which is in the tefillah, and it has to do with the word chen or chanan, which means the word chen or chanan comes from bequeathing something as a result of a sense of endearment, as a sense of grace as well, and chanenu is, when we say that, is we should find favor in your eyes. We should have some sort of special relationship with you. Conversely, sachanunim is when we request that special relationship. So tefillah is just a general prayer, but the tachnun is much more intimate, much more of a request for a relationship than a request for some request. So that's usually the way we understand it between tefillos and sachanunim. He says, brings down the Yitz Yosef here, that Kikel Shemet Philosos Sachanunim Ota, Kosam Abu Dram Hamon Am Korin, Kikel Shemet Philoseinu V'Sachnunenu. Some people say, Philoseinu V'Sachnunenu, our Tfilos and our Sachnunim. But other people say, like we said, Yesh Korin, Kikel Shemet Philos Sachanunim Ota, not ours. For Nachum, that's correct. We cannot hold ourselves as such great tzaddikim and say that Kosh Baruch Hu hears our tefillos all the time. So therefore, it's proper to say the notion of the generic tefillos sechnu, not tefillos seinu, and china seinu. Milfanel, and then we go on to Milfanechem Malkeinu. We come out to Shivenu. We say the Kosh Baruch Hu, he doesn't tefillos and tachanunim in general, as Abu Dram said. But now let's talk about our tefillos. Okay, so milfanechem alkein rekom al teshivenu. This siddur here, it has the word chanenu next, even though I don't think the word Kolenu actually appears in the Ashkenaz. Shma Kolenu. So the word Kolenu here is a typo. Okay, obviously when they went back and forth from Sparta to Ashkenaz and outside Tfilos, they messed up here. So, but is again our personal Tfilos. Now, here we have in many Sidurim the insertions for Parnasa, for Vidui, and for Parnasa. And when the Anaf Yosef says here, and we might have mentioned this previously, but since this bracha is generic, so you can down here for anything you want, as long as you won't be impeded from saying Kedusha. And therefore he says, it's better for Elokainet to say Elokainet Sora, so you won't miss Kedusha, but he says, regardless, it's appropriate for every person to daven every day, especially on his needs and his parnasa, and that the Torah should not be go away, be removed from his mouth and his children's mouth, and every one of his descendants should be in Oived Hashem be'emes, and none of them should be posel chas v'sholom. And everything which you know in your heart, you should put into your tefillah, either in Shema Tefillah or in Elokai Nitzor. Such as if you need to make shidduch for yourself or for your children, you should daven. And you have to go to commercial activity, you should daven to Hashem. They should give you success and bring you in the proper way. And certainly if you have chas v'sholom, some sort of tzara in your house, you certainly have to daven. And if you have simcha, you should daven. What are you supposed to daven if you have simcha? So, you could say Hakara Satoim, for the simcha, but probably that's more appropriate to have kavana in modim. So here he says that you should daven. You're not going to sin as a result of the simcha, and it shouldn't be a simcha which was followed by sorrow, chas v'sholom. And everything which you can daven in your own language, even if your language is broken. Lashon ileg he uses here. In other words, you don't have the proper oratory or the proper articulation, the proper the skills in composing your thoughts in an eloquent manner. So then, and even if you can't daven in Hebrew as properly, it's that which you daven before Hashem. It's chaviv. It's precious, as if you daven with a lyrical manner and a clear clear language, and with a pleasant form of chanting. So this is and that's from the Yaros Vashim Yos and Aibshitz. And the Chayyim says that if you don't know that it's not according to Yos Aibshitz, it's better to say in Hebrew, and even though you mumble and stumble. The Chayyim says no. If you don't know to say Hebrew with the proper eloquence, then you should say it in your own language, but it should be from the depth of your heart. But then he says it's he also ends up though here, so I'm not sure if they disagree. Okay, so he says that even if somebody writes you the tefillah in Hebrew, or you're using one of the tefillos, I guess, which is in the siddur here as the insertion, so then when you say it in Hebrew, if you don't understand, that in of itself has a skula, has inequality, the fact that you're saying the tefillah in Hebrew. Now, this is according to Anav Yosef. This is actually a good thing to add on a regular basis, not daily. This tefillah. I once heard from Michal Shavuot, and I thought about this myself before I heard it from him, that it's not necessarily appropriate to say these things every day because they lose their meaning. If you say vidui every day, so then when you have really an avera to do, which unfortunately we all have, so that the vidui has lost its power by being something which you frequently say. So generally speaking, things that you frequently say, which is the problem with tefillah in general, lose their power. So therefore, I'm not sure it's a good idea to say vidui every day. And tefillah and parnasa as well, even though many of us need parnasa, and every day we say, Esai Na'il as we, where am I going to get my parnasa? Nevertheless, this tefillah, I personally only say it when I feel like I'm in dire straits, which happens pretty frequently, Tani Mechanech, and I'm sure, but because I'm afraid if I say it every day, again, it loses its power, it loses its tchina aspect, it loses its supplication, and and therefore it's a less effective and less meaningful tefillah. I have this personal pet peeve also, and obviously there are many people who disagree with me, but about Yom Kippur Katan tefillah. So when you say Yom Kippur Katan tefillah, you say Shma Kolenu Hashem Elokim, just like Yom Kippur, and I feel by Neila, and I feel that this is to say that every month means that the fervor of Motzei Yom Kippur will not be the same, because when it's the Motzei Yom Kippur, then this is the climax of the entire year. This is the grand finale, the crescendo, so to speak. So then, in that case, there is this notion of the tefillah being something which is above and beyond, and the Kabbalah Shamayim is extremely moving, perhaps the most moving moment of the Yom Kippur davening, therefore the most moving moment of the entire year. But if you say it every month, then it really loses, my opinion and my experience of saying things frequently, the awesome power which it has. So, of course, it doesn't mean not to say Yom Kippur Katan. It's just one of the issues which is involved in saying a tefillah frequently and not making it something special. It becomes mitzvah anoshim lumada. It just becomes mumbo jumbo. So the first, so therefore, these tefillahs which you have inside the siddur, they I don't know what this big white spot is in the back of me. Oh, it's on the screen. Well, I'm not sure I can do about that. Strange. Okay, sorry, this gets into the video at the end. This big white spot in this side here. It is, I think you better this mic tomorrow. Okay, sorry about that. I know it's distracting. Okay. So I apologize for that interruption. But of course, one can make one's own tefillos and of whatever sort. But this is, you have here the tefillos of the vidui and the parnasa, and I think we should go through them briefly. The first one is Ana Shem Chatas Yivis B'Shati V'Nechas. We know Chet is something which is shogeg or korov shogeg. You mess up. Avon is deliberate. And Pesha is a rebellious Avera, where it's not because of your taifa, but lahachis, in order to rebel, or to be, so to speak, chas v'shomer, of anger, kosh baruch hu. Lefanechem yom hazeh, the mother yom hazeh, I did this before you from the day I was put on this earth until today. And then in parentheses it says, you befrat b'chet ploini. You should insert whatever chet you're saying video on. On Hashem, I say, by the way, it's important, I think, to remember that chet only means shogeg or korov shogeg, inadvertent or close inadvertent, when it appears together with avon and pesha in a grouping. But if when chet appears by its own, it's the generic word for sin, including all sins. Okay, so we say so you're supposed to mention whatever sin you did at that point. They say on Hashem. Please Hashem, do for the purpose of your great name, which is interesting language, and we also have it later on. And we mentioned this, I think, previously, that Shimcha Gadol refers to many different aspects, but it refers to the relationship of Kosh Baruch Hu, usually of the Shem Havaya, which is the Midah of Rachamim. So therefore, we want to invoke the Midah of Rachamim in asking Kosh Baruch Hu for Mechila. And we say, you should do, give me a kapara. And again, there are various different forms of kapara, but when we use it generically, it means all forms of kapara. You can have the mechila, slicha, and kapara, but generally speaking, when you have kapara as in itself, it includes those other terms as well. So, it's interesting, the change in the order. It says, Avonai Chatai B'Shai, and not Chatai Upshai V'Avonai. I'm sorry, not Chatai Avonai Upshai. I don't know if that's deliberate or not deliberate. Don't necessarily think that's deliberate, but perhaps there's some reason why in asking for kapara, first we do Avonai V'Chatai, and if there is one, perhaps we can suggest that that it is based on about tshuva. Even he does tshuva meiras donos nasulo shkagos. In other words, the avonos which he did, become like chatoim, right? So therefore, zadon becomes a shogeg, and pesha is something where you rebel against Hashem. It's much more bechil Hashem and much more difficult to atone. So therefore, we separate it afterwards, but that's unlikely. Maybe it's pshat, it's unlike us. I mean, it says shachatasi v'shavisi shepashati v'necha. We go back to the original order. So I'm not sure why we changed in the middle, but perhaps it's just a typo. And again, shatom for averos shachatasi shavisi v'shepashati v'necha mido rai hadayom hazeh, from my youth until this very day. Obviously, it's best to say vidui on the same day one committed Avera. And then there's interesting, very nefesh achayim dika, or the ending to this bakasha, which is usmalei kol shemos shebagamti b'shimcha hagadol. Obviously, the shemos of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, as Nefesh Chaim explains, are the relationships which Hakadosh Baruch Hu has with us. They're all given names, and therefore, they're within the totality of Shimcha Hagadol, which is the name of which encompasses all names, which again, for our purposes, is the Shem Havaya. There are multiple other names which you can break out of that name, just like you have in the Spheros, Chesed Shebegvura, Gvura Shebegvura, and so on and so forth. So too in the Shem Hashem. It depends if you unpack it. The Yud is a Yud Vav Daled, and so on and so forth. You get many different permutations, which according to the Svarim, Tanya, and the Nefesh HaChaim is the way the world was created. So when we do an Avera, we wreak destruction and havoc in that arrangement of the Shemos, which are the array by which the Bria is held together. So therefore, we ask Hakadosh Baruch Hu to male, rebuild and fill these names which we damaged when we did the Averos. Okay, we'll stop here for tonight. I hope I'll be able to do this more frequently, as I said before. But right now we're heading up on our 15-minute deadline. Have a good night.